Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening. Hi, Aneesh. How are you doing?
Doing good. How are
Okay,
you?
so we're here to talk about NBA today. I mean, usually I do a lot of golf and tennis and cricket, but I know this is very exciting for you. The Boston Celtics have won their 18th NBA title. They beat the Dallas Mavericks 4-1 in the NBA Finals. And it's been a great run for the Celtics. They've been completely dominant throughout the playoffs. And wanted to hear your thoughts on what are the key aspects of their run, and then what you think is going forward as they go into the next few years, because they do have a core group of players. And then we can quickly dive into some of the additions that they have made, especially Brad Stevens bringing in Drew Holiday and Porzingis. So let's get down to business. I wanted to hear your thoughts on, first, give you the floor in terms of uh, what you thought was the key to their success.
Yeah, I think the real thing for them was the progression of Tatum and Brown this year as playmakers as opposed to just their ability to score. I think in past years, and when they first came into the league, they were very, very dynamic scorers. But I think this year Tatum really developed the playmaking ability, especially in the first couple games of the Dallas series. He wasn't scoring great, but he was really able to kind of assist his teammates. I think he had double-digit assists in the first two games, and he almost had double-digit rebounds. So I think even though that his shot was not completely falling, his three-point percentage was down. The fact that he was able to help his teammates and Jaylen Brown was there to kind of pick up the scoring slack. And I think when you mentioned Porzingis and Drew Holiday, I think those are really the X factors. I think Drew Holiday, what he brought on the defensive side of the ball. In past years, obviously they had Marcus Smart, who was the defensive player of the year. But a lot of times, late game situations, Smart would try taking those shots to win the game or to close a gap or to try to close out a game, as opposed to Tatum and Brown, who should have been taking those shots. And Holiday was very unselfish during the year. He averaged, in the mid-teens in terms of points, but I think his presence on the defensive end, his presence as a leader, someone who had won a championship before with that championship pedigree, really helped elevate Brown and Tatum. And I think him paired with Derek White, who's also an incredible defender and who really had his role improve since he came from San Antonio in 2022, where when he first came here, he was definitely a role player, and now he could easily score, give you 20, 25 if you really need him to. And I think most importantly, Kristaps Porzingis really helped with their spacing. Having a 7'3" center who can shoot the three ball from 30 feet out, who can kind of use the low post and also spread out a center, but at the same time, he's masterful in the pick and roll, and he really gave Tatum and Brown more open shooting opportunities. And I think we really have to look at Al Horford's longevity here. The fact that he's able to do this in his 17th season, and he's still able to knock down threes. He's still a leader. He can still dunk. He's still an excellent defender. Having Al Horford as a sixth man was a real benefit for this team. And I'm really excited to see if they can run this whole thing back, bring back the same starting six. Brown is under contract. Holiday and Porzingis just signed extensions. Horford said he's going to come back. Tatum is going to sign the Supermax, and they look like they're going to offer a 4-year deal to Derek White as well. So if they're able to bring their top six back, as long as everyone stays healthy, I see no reason for them not to be able to repeat here.
Yeah, the one thing is that, which I saw at least from this year's Celtics, obviously they had Tatum and Brown earlier. I think back in when they both got together, and I think they lost the NBA championship. So it's good for them to put some key pieces with Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Porzingis. The one thing I did see reading an article was that it is very similar to when I look at college basketball, where you don't have one dominant player, just like the Mavericks had Luka, but it was core group of five players, they didn't have one player who finished in the top five of the MVP voting. They had very interchangeable players. They can dribble, they can pass, they can shoot the three. And then that's one of the keys I do believe that really got them the wins, during the playoffs. But also, even during the regular season, they dominated the regular season. I do think that they led in about 50, or they were up by 20 points in 50 of their games. It's something crazy stat I saw. What are your thoughts about what the Boston coach? He's young. He's 35 years old. Joe Mazzulla. What did he bring to the table for the keys to the Celtics' success this past few years?
Yeah, I have to be completely honest. Last year, I didn't really like Joe Mazzulla as a coach at all. I think he was not a great coach. I thought he was just utilizing the talent around him. I thought he really didn't make any in-game adjustments. I thought he was just going by the fact that he had, Tatum, who's arguably a top 10 player in the league, and Jaylen Brown is arguably a top 30, maybe top 20 now after this year and his performance in the playoffs. And I really didn't trust Joe Mazzulla in late game situations. The Celtics were not very good as a clutch team in 2023. I feel that he also let Marcus Smart take too many of those shots at the end of the game instead of letting Tatum and Brown go towards them. And I think this year he really has progressed as a coach. I think there were definitely some games where I questioned his ability to lead the team late when they had some leads that they were blown. But I think this year in the playoffs, he completely flipped the script. You look at game 3 versus Indiana, down 18, came back and won on the road. Even look at game 1 against Indiana, down 3 late. He doesn't give up. He puts some defensive pressure on Pascal Siakam. Jaylen Brown makes an incredible play, hits the game-tying shot, and then Mazzulla really had a good game plan in overtime. Tatum had an open 3 to hit the dagger. That was game 1. Game 4, again, same kind of thing. Celtics down late. He just trusted his team, let them put the pieces together that they needed to end the game. And I think his game plan in the Dallas series was quite masterful. I was watching some analysis after game 2, and the way that he defended Luka and Kyrie was completely different than what anyone else had really tried to. In terms of Luka, who was really good against Oklahoma City and even the Clippers, with assisting his teammates, he would drive into the lane and really give his teammates an open outlet, give them some threes. And once they saw those threes falling, these role players, they get really, really confident and they feel like they can knock those shots down more. And the Celtics, as soon as Luka would drive, instead of trying to give Luka help and double him, they would just wall off any of those other defenders and any of those other playmakers and said, Luka, you can beat us, but you can score 40 all you want. If your teammates aren't going to score, it's not going to really matter. And then in terms of Kyrie, who is really a true scorer, and he can slash to the basket and he can have some incredible finishes. With him, they did the exact opposite of Luka. They said, Kyrie, if you want to hit the open man, you can, but we're going to give help here and we're not going to give you any outlet. And I think the fact that he was able to do that was really good. And also Dallas was big on their corner threes and lob threats, and Mazzulla just about eliminated them in 4 of the 5 games. The only game that he couldn't was game 4. That game didn't really matter. They were down 30. Ballooned to almost 45. Didn't really matter. They won game 5. And I think offensively what he did, I feel like last year and even sometimes this year, they ran a lot of ISO ball and they didn't work as a team. They have 5 scorers. They can all score. He let them start going to their drive and kick mechanisms, drive, draw help, kick out, open shooter. Everyone shot over 35% from 3 as a team. I think they shot just under 40 or just over 40 throughout the season. If you can hit 4 or 10 threes, that's 12 points right there. And they kind of really went to the trademark of the 2018 Rockets, saying, if you can shoot more threes than the other team and you can make more threes, they're going to be worth more than 2. So if you can shoot them at an efficient clip, it's going to work. And there was some worry that their reliance on threes would hurt them, but the fact that they kept getting open looks never really did hurt them. So I'm really excited for Mazzulla going forward. I think he did a really, really good job this year, especially in the playoffs. And I think I've gained confidence in him going forward.
Yeah, the other thing, I mean, you kind of mentioned the offense where they kind of let Luka get his points. It's very similar to how UConn, I'm just trying to draw some parallels here, how UConn played Zach Edey, letting him score as much as he wants. But the other thing on the defensive side of things, what I definitely saw during this 5 games that they played, except for one game against in Dallas, where Dallas won pretty big last Friday, but that is something that they knew that Dallas was going to bounce back for one game. They attacked Luka relentlessly throughout on the defensive end, and the once Luka got tired and once Dallas defense started collapsing, I did see Celtics hit a lot of big threes, and I think if you look at the number of threes, it was not even close. I mean, Boston took 207 threes versus Dallas took 152 threes. And I know you and I have talked about, the present NBA is very, everybody's behind the three ball. Everybody wants to shoot from behind the arc. But one thing I was really impressed with the way Celtics played was a very college type offense where there was not a single good scorer. Anybody could score on a given day. And then the other thing is the way they played defense and the way they attacked the other teams. Um, they were very effective. They were efficient, and the fact that they have 5 people who can make the three, it makes it much easier. I do want to talk about. I think we touched upon this where in 2018 both uh, Tatum and Brown, they reached the Eastern Conference Finals. They pushed LeBron to 7 games. Obviously, they didn't make the final then, but then they reached it back in 2022. That was the big Warriors one where Curry took them. But the key I did want to touch upon was Brad Stevens. He was the coach of that first team, and right now he's the president. Some of the things that he did, upgrading talent, especially uh, coming up with some great deals. I wanted to hear your thoughts on what Brad Stevens, I mean, moving from college, from Butler to NBA as a coach, and then now becoming the president, what you thought about his moves in the past few years, and then going forward, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think talking about Brad Stevens, right, coming from Butler to the NBA, he was really tasked as the guy to kind of turn the franchise around after the big three of Pierce, Garnett, and Rondo left. You can even include Big Four if you want to include Ray Allen in there. Um, and he was kind of tasked. So they had like the dark ages, 2010 to 2014, 2015, where they really were not very good. Um, and then, of course, draft Jaylen Brown in 2016, draft Jason Tatum in 2017. Um, really kind of have those two kind of grow. Then 2018, trade for Gordon Hayward, trade Isaiah Thomas, who's a fan favorite. Very, very difficult decision that the organization had to make. A lot of Celtic fans don't agree with it because Thomas was hurt, and they basically traded him away as soon as he got healthy. Traded him for Kyrie Irving, and then brought them in to try to win a championship, pair them with Al Horford, who they got in free agency, and then Gordon Hayward goes down in the first game of the season against Cleveland in Cleveland, breaks his leg, and now it's Tatum and Brown have to step up with Kyrie and Horford, and of course then they get all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals without Kyrie, just Tatum and Brown and Terry Rozier, and they take him all the way to the brink, and then 2018, 2019 season they come back. Hayward is still a little injured, and then Kyrie, of course, has one of his worst playoff performances in his entire career in that Eastern Conference semifinals against Milwaukee. They lose 4-1, and then Kyrie still thinks about re-signing, says his whole spiel, then leaves, and that's immediately where Kyrie became hated by Boston. And then, of course, in 2019, this is the year that they started off very good. They were good enough for they got Kemba Walker, traded for Kemba Walker, but Al Horford left in free agency to go to Philadelphia. But they got Kemba Walker. They still had Tatum. They still had Brown. Still had Marcus Smart, was still a very good defender. This was when Robert Williams was there. Again, injury-prone center, but very dominant when he was on the floor. And this was the bubble year where they lost to the Jimmy Butler Heat in 6. And I think that year really kind of showed that Tatum and Brown had made that leap. they didn't have that Kyrie Irving guy to kind of lead the team. It was Tatum and Brown's team. And Kemba had obviously gotten hurt in the bubble. So like the general theme here is someone is getting hurt in each of these playoff runs if you look throughout them. And then, of course, if you even look at the next year, Jaylen Brown fractured his hand. He was out for the playoffs, and they lost to the KD, Kyrie, and Harden Nets in 5. And then, of course, the next year is when they got to the finals against the Warriors. And I think this is really now where Brad Stevens really started putting the wheels and turning. 2022 got to the finals, could not win, but there were definitely some players on that team who weren't cut out for a championship level team. Grant Williams had a couple games where he was really good. Definitely not a guy you can bring off on the bench. He wasn't really that great. And then, of course, in this past offseason, after they lost to the Heat, after almost coming back from 3-0 down, he had to try to make some changes. There was a Celtics documentary, and the owner basically went up to Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla, said, "It's been a couple years that we've gotten close. We can't run this back. We need to make a change. I don't know what it's going to be, but we need to make a change." And of course, that started with getting Kristaps Porzingis, having to trade away a fan favorite in Marcus Smart. And before Smart, they were actually going to trade Malcolm Brogdon, Sixth Man of the Year, who did not want to be here. And he had also gotten injured, but then for his injury reasons, they didn't take the trade. Had to trade away Smart. And then, obviously, at that point, they needed a defensive first guard. And luckily for the Celtics, Drew Holiday had been traded away for Damian Lillard, landed in Portland. As soon as Brad Stevens saw that, pulled the trigger and got Drew Holiday. And I think those two trades in this past offseason, Kristaps Porzingis getting 2 first for Marcus Smart, who is a great player, but was taking too much away from Tatum and Brown. And he also had gotten injured this year. And then trading Robert Williams away for Drew Holiday, I think really was a great move for this organization. If you even look back a couple of years, Derek White has blossomed into a fantastic player for this franchise, really knows his role, is a great defender, and is not selfish at all as the 4th, 5th option on this team. So I think what Brad Stevens has done has been nothing short of incredible. I'm very interested to see how he's going to carry these next couple of years, especially with all these high contracts in the team, but I have the confidence that he can keep this team around.
Yep. And I think that's a great way to kind of end. I think we covered everybody here, from the players, the coach, and the president. And I know you were at the parade. Describe a little bit about what the parade was like before we wrap up.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was the first Boston parade I've been to, but duck boats were rolling. Tatum was holding the trophy. Jaylen Brown had his MVP Finals trophy. There was a duck boat with legends. Paul Pierce was there, and then there was Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports was there. Brad Stevens was in one of the duck boats, but it was incredible. Apparently, they said almost 1 million people had showed up. So hopefully, we can get another Patriots parade sometime in the near future. But I think the Celtics might be able to get another one soon.
Cool. No, that's awesome. So thank you, Aneesh. I know we've been trying to do this. The Boston Celtics right now sit on top with 18 championships, followed by the Lakers. I know it makes a lot of Laker fans pretty upset. The fact that 1, they lost out on Dan Hurley. 2, the Boston Celtics have won their 18 championships. Maybe this brings good karma to the Boston teams right now for the Patriots and the Red Sox. But for now, you should enjoy this. So do all the millions of Celtics fans around the New England region. This has been great, and I know you guys are all at Cloud 9, including all the duck boats, and watching these games brings a great smile to you. So enjoy, Aneesh. This is great. Just hang on a little bit when I stop the recording button. Okay? Thank you, Aneesh. Okay? Bye.
Thank you for listening. Primo will be back soon.